we're going to look at the hinge, guys. Movements such as deadlifts, RDLs, kettlebell swings, single leg deadlifts, all require a really good hinge, and it's something that I think golfers should be able to access. Completely different movement to the squat. However, some people get their hinge, their squat a little bit muddled up. So we're going to talk today some points, what to look out for creating a really good hinge. Joe, I'm going to get you to set up feet. I want you more shoulder width here, okay? And then all I'm going to say with your knees is if you can just kind of soften those knees, just unlock those knees, perfect. From there, all I'm going to ask you to do, hands on hips, amazing. And I'm just going to say, if you could reach your bum back and almost try and touch that back wall for me, what does that look like? Lovely. And then just coming up through, perfect. Just keep going, a couple more for me there. And lovely, nice. One more. And then I'm just going to ask you just to stay there for me. As you can see, guys, Joe's creating a lovely straight line all the way from his head, shoulders, torso, down into the hips, and come back up. Perfect, Joe. That's what we're trying to achieve with a hinge, okay? If you could do the same, Joe, but now kind of just give me a bit of spinal flexion with that. Perfect. Now you can see we've got a rounding of the torso, a rounding of the spine. That's what we're not trying to do, okay? There are certain exercises that will look to create spinal flexion, but they're very specific. Here with a hinge, we're specifically looking for a nice neutral spine, okay? Ways to kind of correct that. Joe, sometimes it's quite hard for people to kind of access that neutral spine, and typically we do see a lot of this. One great cue that I love using with clients is just setting up here, Joe. So I'm just going to spin this round. If you could just stand here facing me. It's the same cue I used before. You're just going to kind of experiment with the distance of how far you stand away. You can use a wall, absolutely anything. All you're going to try and do here, Joe, is just tuck your bum back to that box for me. Perfect. So all that does, guys, it allows the weight to kind of shift back. Typically why we see spinal flexion is the weight comes into the toes and then we start losing that posture. Joe, if you just then take a little step further forward, and do exactly the same thing. We should see now he's getting a slightly lower hinge. We'll be able to feel that down the hamstrings. Perfect. So it's a really good way, just as almost like a warm-up, to experiment. How far away can you get away from your tool that you're using just to create that lower hinge? Joe, just do exactly the same. Now I want you to kind of squat for me and cheat it a little bit. Can you see how there, now we're kind of combining into a squat as well, which we may use if we were doing like a conventional deadlift off the floor, depending on the plate height. But if we're specifically looking for, say, like a single leg RDL or a normal RDL, we're never going to kind of use the knees that much. You want to just think of keeping the knees nice and unlocked as we're performing these movements.